When a player makes illegal contact, it's called a personal foul, which means this would be. So that would, yeah, that's a personal foul. No, there is no foul. You know, see how? It's because that's why. But when a player makes unnecessary illegal contact, then it's called a flagrant one foul, which means this would be. Let's see, that's unnecessary. Yep, that's a flagrant one foul. No. What would you think? The player made normal illegal contact, which means it's just a personal foul. See what I mean? The player was just trying to get into a defensive position and accidentally made contact with the other player. That's why. But when the illegal contact is unnecessary and excessive, then that would be a flagrant 2 foul, which means this would be. So that's unnecessary and excessive. That would be a flagrant 2 foul. No. Flagrant 1 foul? No.
Fans would continue to applaud as if it were halftime at a middle school game, and the WNBA believed they could rough up Caitlin Clark every night. Plot twist, huh? Fans aren't just upset because Clark was body-checked like it was Game 7 of the NHL Finals. They're boycotting like it's Black Friday and the officials stole their coupons. There is currently a full-court protest over the league's desire for physical play. Who knew that hurling elbows at your MVP ticket sales was part of the way to equality? Now, get ready as we go straight into this tale.
She's 100% supported by us. The people in this league know who AT is. She's a competitor, she's a winner, and she's tough. The one thing she is not is cheap. I respect Steph White. I got to know her with USA Basketball. I respect her as a coach and a person, and I understand her sticking up for Caitlin in this situation. But to say that we had 2 cheap shots in that game, to me, is ridiculous. Steph knows AT. She got the opportunity to coach AT for 2 years, and she knows what AT stands for and what she's about. Next, I'd like to hit on my disappointment with the suspension process by our league and our leaders.
Yes, the WNBA anticipated a peaceful, drama-free season. That is so cute. Because just when everything appeared to be going well, jerseys were flying off the shelves, ratings were skyrocketing, and every hot game was being treated like a Taylor Swift concert. Boom. The quad of Caitlin Clark had other ideas. She's benched now. While the WNBA is secretly freaking out behind closed doors while acting as though everything is normal, fans are behaving as though the Earth has fallen out of orbit. It's not.
Caitlin Clark's not on it. And it's not just like an ode to the veterans that started the league. Paige Beckers and Angel Reese are on it. And Caitlin Clark's not. You guys, when she broke into the league, you moved her road games to bigger arenas to accommodate the fans. You were flying the last 6 rows of Southwest Airlines until she made such an impact.
For 2 weeks. Clark has been sitting out with a strained quadriceps for that amount of time. It wasn't a break or a tear, but it was enough to completely change the league's narrative. The Fever's star player is currently sitting on the bench while the WNBA fights for attention after her thigh essentially filed for paid time off. And the responses? Yes, they have been subtle. If subtle refers to a complete public breakdown. Emotional walkouts are already being staged by Clark supporters, who are the most fervent, merchandise-wearing, Twitter-catlocked admirers since Michael Jordan's followers. They have transformed a small wound into a revolution. Until Clark comes back, I'm done watching. Without her, this league wouldn't be worth it. Boycott the WNBA. These folks are behaving as though their dog was taken and their grandmother was personally spanked by the league. Every other player is out there saying, "Hey, we exist too," in the meantime. "Not now, sweetie," the internet replies. The Indiana? Well, they're only now learning what it's like to live without their golden goose. Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell are attempting to keep the entire business together with duct tape and hustling after the Caitlin Clark show temporarily went off the air. Even if Boston is rebounding like she's fighting ghosts, Mitchell is playing like she has 3 lungs, and Coach Stephanie White is rewriting game plans like she's in the Hunger Games. The Fever may manage to survive. Why? Because the opponents in the upcoming games have been as unthreatening as lukewarm soup. I mean no disrespect, Chicago Sky. Alright, perhaps a slight offense, let's face it, though. The scoreboard, highlight reels, or even the actual basketball aren't the most interesting aspects of the WNBA. It's witnessing the league attempt to act like it's still a party when Caitlin Clark, the life of that party, was just benched. Prior to her accident, Clark was the talk of the town rather than just one of the MVPs. It's true that some tried to portray her as a long shot or as only competent for a rookie, but that would be tantamount to claiming that Beyoncé is acceptable for a vocalist. Like a one-woman rescue effort, Caitlin was bringing an entire franchise back into relevancy rather than merely putting up stats. Wearing homemade jerseys with glitter glue, she had the ratings, the sellouts, the celebrity shoutouts, the yelling crowds, and the nosebleeds. Not only did she create enthusiasm, but she also completely changed the WNBA's formula on her own. Record-breaking views, arenas that suddenly know what it's like to be packed, and merchandise selling out more quickly than Taylor Swift tickets are all on the agenda. The Queen is now momentarily removed from the board. And everyone is acting as like the competition for MVP is suddenly open, as if the league wasn't merely circling her 5 minutes before. Adorable. In the meantime, the Fever are discreetly working things out back in Indiana, and they may benefit from it. Because the rest of the team is stepping up in Clark's absence. And when she comes back, rejuvenated, rested, and completely over the commotion. Fasten your seatbelt. After 2 weeks of quad rehab, picture Clark roaring back into the court, sinking threes from the parking lot, and dispelling any doubters. That is an encore rather than merely a comeback. The worst part is that if the Beaver can make it through this phase, maintain their competitiveness, and possibly even pull off a few unexpected victories, they will pose a serious threat. Because with Mitchell energized, Boston self-assured, and Clark in good health, you're looking at a possible playoff spoiler with more momentum than a goods train. Yes, Caitlin Clark is momentarily hurt, but what about the WNBA? It's still going strong, perhaps even more so than before. Because all of the storylines are now cooking simultaneously. Conspiracy theories, fan feuds, rising stars, MVP controversy, and Clark's eventual return tour. A reality check for all the fans who are refusing to watch the league until their basketball messiah comes back. Watching the WNBA without Caitlin is like tuning in after the primary act has departed the stage. The league is full of talented players, but without her, the drama, excitement, and spark would be lacking. At best, lukewarm. The WNBA isn't changing, it's just surviving, so feel free to tweet angrily from your beanbag with a Clark theme. It will be more than simply basketball when she returns. It will be the show we've all been anticipating. The games are now smoother, yet nobody is watching, creating a strange dichotomy. No more discussions about whether it was an attempted exorcism or a hard foul, no more viral fouls. The discourse has subsided without Clark being body-checked every 5 minutes, which is precisely what the WNBA is most afraid of. Due to controversy? It sells controversy. As much as the league attempts to emphasize basketball brilliance, let's face it, the numbers increased when Caitlin was struck in the jaw rather than when someone executed a brilliant backdoor cut. When Clark was severely fouled and someone tweeted assault, the headlines went viral instead of when Eric Ogunbale dropped 30. The upheaval has given the WNBA free publicity. They are anxiously glancing at the stat sheets like it's their credit card bill now that their Havoc engine has been benched. And let's not even talk about the merchandise, folks. Pallets of Caitlin Clark jerseys are sitting somewhere in a warehouse, like, hey, remember us? The moment she hobbled off the court, sales decreased. Additionally, the accountants are perspiring as if they had just made a 2026 investment in Beanie Babies. The WNBA's equivalent of an eclipse would be a 12-game Caitlin Clark layoff. Short, uncommon, and extremely inconvenient for anyone attempting to sell tickets. Fans are now acting like babies who received the wrong Happy Meal toy, which is what fans do best. Cries that she ought to have been to Europe have taken over entire comment sections. Naturally, that is the sensible way to avoid getting wounded. Get your belongings and leave the continent. It seems that dunking on Lithuanian 19-year-olds for $5,000 a week speeds up the healing of the quad muscle. Brilliant. But let's discuss the story of why she ought to have traveled to Europe. First of all, since oligarchs don't care about wage limitations, the pay is frequently higher elsewhere. Yes. Second, basketball princesses are revered as royalty by European fans. However, Clark didn't seek solace in the WNBA. She arrived to assume control. Furthermore, when half of the league treats you like a piñata and the other half acts as like they're not fixated on your every move, it's difficult to take control. Speaking of obsession, let's give the people who despise Caitlin Clark a moment of silence. They had just begun honing their hate-watching techniques. The memes, the articles, her overrated tea. Now, nothing. Radio quiet. When someone isn't playing, it's difficult to hate-watch them. They meander around with too much leisure and too many opinions, resembling comedy villains who unexpectedly lost their lead actress. Angel Reese, meanwhile, is definitely taking full use of the limelight. She is trash-talking, flexing, and making post-game press conferences into TED Talks about media bias, haters, and doubters. The best part is that it's actually working. It's a fantastic drama. Reese strengthens her brand each time she wears a high-end ensemble and scores 15 rebounds. Unreserved, unconcerned, and ready to rule. Reese is stirring things up as the Queen sleeps, even though Clark brought the fans in. Remember that the game of the week was meant to be Clark-Reese. Everyone was swooning over the rematch, Bonanza, the main event, Fever vs. Sky, Caitlin vs. Angel, and the ratings. These days, though, it's like arriving at WrestleMania and learning that The Rock stayed from home. The show continues, but it doesn't have the same impact. Don't assume that the league's marketing staff didn't weep during their conference call when they were forced to abandon all of those Clash of Titans advertisements. These days, it's more like watching two up-and-coming teams attempt to avoid tripping over each other's missed layups. But let's take a closer look. The injury to Caitlin Clark might be the finest thing that has ever happened to the WNBA. Remain with me. Why? Because the league is being forced to demonstrate that it has multiple stars. Fans are being forced to recognize brilliance that isn't trending on TikTok, meet players they've overlooked, and realize that Clark is only the start of a movement rather than the entire movement.